Hi, it's me. I'm jumping in here really quick to tell you about an opportunity that we have reserved for Resiliency Redefined podcast listeners. So, this is for you. We're offering a code, which is LAB, like literally like chocolate lab puppies, but that was too long. So, we just went with LAB, LAB, for you to have a discount on the next offering of the Stress Wisely Lab. This is a virtual learning experience where we come together, we problem solve, we critically think, we find exactly what you need. So for the next 90 days, you are well positioned to feel your very best. So October 27th is our next Stress Wisely Lab. The code for you as a listener of the podcast is LAB. As I said, Chocolate Lab Puppies was too long, so it's just LAB. And feel free to follow the link, sign up. There's a spot for you there. Thanks for listening. Now enjoy this episode of Resiliency Redefined. Welcome to Resiliency Redefined. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to share with you information about resiliency, well-being, performance, education, business, parenting, and everything in between. I'm committed to joining you each week to talk about these big ideas and bring them into action, habits, tools, strategies, tactics that allow us to finally uncover what it takes to truly be well. And I'm just so excited that you're here. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Resiliency Redefined. Today, we are in for a treat. I had the opportunity to connect with Syd Vaughan. Now, this person is a force of nature, like fit AF, but oh my goodness, totally changes my perspective around the importance of how we look after ourselves, how we show up to look after ourselves, and that missing ingredient of breath work and fascia. Okay, Syd's our person. She's our go-to expert on this. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Syd as much as I did. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. And again, if you have any questions, curiosities, or wonderments, we have all of Syd's information in the show notes. I'm so glad you're here. This is a treat. So without further ado, here is my episode with Syd Vaughan, all about breath and our bodies. Syd, I'm so excited to welcome you today to Resiliency Redefined. Thank you for making time for this.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Robyne. It really is a pleasure to be able to have a conversation with you and us dive into a few things.
I love this. And I have to tell you, when we first met one another, it wasn't that long ago. And I have these moments where I'm like, I meet people and I'm like, I want to be friends with that other human. Like, I want to be friends. And I remember we were at a sound check at an event and we were chit chatting. And oh my goodness, there was just, I learned so much from your session, Syd. I learned so much just from interacting with you. And I'm really excited to welcome you to this community because I know that even in this short time together, there's going to be so many exciting things that we can chat about.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. And right off the hop, we just connected. And even just from your talk and my talk, I just feel like there was a really nice synergy. So I'm super excited to get chatting with you today.
Awesome. So, Sid, can you tell our listeners just a wee bit about like who you are, what you do, and just give us a little bit of a little overview?
Absolutely. So, I mean, for me, it's always been just such a gift to be able to do what I do every day. So, I've been in the health and wellness industry for over 10 years now, and I spend most of my days with clients one on one. So, I'm a massage therapist. So, I work with the body, I work a lot with fascia. I've got a background in personal training, as well as facilitating breath work. So, it's this beautiful trine of body work, breath work, and movement. So I really do feel it's a privilege that I get to work with individuals and groups and speak and really share my perspective and ideas and just this idea that it really is all connected: the
Yeah.
mind, the body, and the breath. Um, so that's been my work for the last 10 years or so. So my business is Three Well by Syd, and that's the philosophy, is really bridging the gap between all three, because it isn't just one facet that creates wellness. It's really being able to have a life of longevity and slowly integrate all of those pieces and parts into one's lifestyle.
Yeah. Sid, and I love that you thank you for sharing that, and I absolutely love how you work in this field, this is your field, and you live in this field. Like, this is something that you are not only a practitioner, but you are in it, and I remember at that event where we did connect, you were getting ready to compete in the CrossFit Games, and you were telling me about these different adventures that you were on, and I just appreciate that there's this practitioner and practice that you do and you bring to it. So again, thank you for the great work that you're doing. Now, the big question I was really curious about asking you is that like you are somebody who like you are fit AF. Like let me tell you, you are a badass. And I look and it's like it's inspirational. Like it is so inspirational and you are so locked into your practice. My question is if we aren't at like Sid level, right? We aren't there yet or maybe just our life circumstances that we don't have the same opportunities, whether it be our physical abilities, whether it be our schedules, whatever it might be. Where do we start if we want to start to like physically and emotionally feel better, especially because the world continues to be so unwell? Where do we even start if we're not Sid level?
I mean, thank you for that. And, I say this to friends, family, and people I come across each day is it starts with a decision,
Right.
and it starts with a conscious decision to just want something different for your life.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the hardest part, is making that conscious choice each day. And I mean, I say I don't always wanna work out, I don't always wanna move my body, I don't always wanna have to breathe and do a meditation, but it's really being very intentional. So I feel like for people that maybe don't know where to start, it's about making a decision to try something new, because if you really know that you want different for your life, whether that be physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever facet that is that you're getting curious about, and I know that you speak about that a lot too, is really just kinda getting curious about these things, is we have to just trust and take that step in the direction.
Yeah.
So it's leaning into a little bit of that discomfort, um, and trying something different, but making that intentional choice each day. Get out for
Yeah.
a walk, chatting with a friend, really shifting how you're thinking. But I do find with a lot of my clients and people that I work with, a big bulk of it is our mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love you're absolutely right. Like even just getting curious, I think it's such a great starting point when people are like, "Okay, what should I do?" And I'm like, "Just are you excited? Like can you get excited about anything?" Cuz even just like that little bit of excitement is going to be that probably gets you over that threshold to just try something, right? We just want people to try and I absolutely echo what you said about like, it's our mindset for sure. And the other piece that I've noticed in when I'm working with people in a very different way, but similar, helping people feel better, is their past relationship with whether it be exercise or fitness or well-being or even meditation. I feel like sometimes people have a bit of a fractured relationship with what exercise or what some of those practices might have looked like for them before. So, if you were working with someone who, let's say, has a pretty fractured relationship with any of the above, what would be your words of encouragement or your guidance?
I feel like, it's always been about really diving back into how can I make a decision each day that is going to be from a place of love, a place of love for myself. And I feel like when we're looking at those, and you said that so beautifully, those relationships from our past that can be a bit fractured, and maybe it feels unsafe to step in that direction again. It's about how can I move from a place of love for myself and redevelop that relationship in that container, that container within our nervous system, so that it feels safe.
Yeah.
And that is really where I would start with individuals, and starting small, habit stack. I feel like we live in such a world where it has to be, and I've been there and I still do, and I'm also still learning, where we go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And it really is about the marathon and not the sprint. I know we can say that over and over again, but it's being very diligent and intentional and slow, because those are the micro kind of habits and movements that then allow us to really create lasting change.
Yeah.
I'm so a believer of longevity, and anybody that I work with, it's about, you're not going to be the same person you are today that you are on the other side of this.
Yeah.
And that's that commitment.
Yeah, that's remarkable. Often I talk about this idea that, for so long, I think the messaging that we heard is that we have to like hate ourselves healthy. And we
Yeah.
can't hate ourselves healthy. Like it is, to me, it is like the most, it's like asking a fish, what do they think of water? Right. The fish is like, what's
Yeah.
water? Right. Like it just, to me, it's just so ridiculous that people for so long were trying to like shrink, disappear, like just, all of these really kind of deconstructive and not helpful ways about thinking about movement in our bodies and taking care of ourselves. And what I love and what I'm hearing you saying is that this idea about doing that little bit of a relationship repair with ourselves. And I remember there's even times I go on the treadmill because I choose to go on the treadmill. Like I love what that feels like because I can go to pretty much any hotel and I can get a workout in, right? It's
Yeah.
maybe, like that's just it's consistent for me. If it's not safe to walk outside or it's too late or whatever. And every time I go onto that treadmill, Sid, I always say like, I'm sorry to my body how I had misused this tool before. And I'm walking on it consciously because like treadmill, you and I, we get our steps in. And I find that I look forward to it. And I do that little bit of relationship repair every single time I step on a treadmill because for a lot of times I was beating myself up on that instrument. And now I actually look forward to that little nod, to future self to say, like, I promise I won't do this to my body anymore.
Robin, that is so beautiful. And it's the power of the word, right? It's the power of repairing the relationship. And again, setting the intention. We have, like you've said, we've hated ourselves fit. And we've done these things because we feel like we have to, or because it's um, what we think we need to do, or it's what's expected of us, instead of really recognizing that it comes down to regulating, feeling safe in our bodies, consistency. And you said that right there. You like, it's consistency and really creating new habits, new patterns, um, so that we can actually show up really regulated and present, um, in all facets, or anything that is going to, maybe be a little bit of a roadblock, or um, a harder time in life, because we are handed different situations that we do have to move through as people.
Yeah, absolutely. So well said, Sid. So well said. Now, the other kind of area, the other big question I was so curious to ask you about was, and we chatted about this a wee bit when we were together, is this idea that there are so many pieces of misinformation out there when it comes to our bodies, when it comes to breath work, when it comes to all of the things. Like, and again, I think I recall at the event we shared that there was the one study that looked at, 67,000 reels from Dublin City University in
Yeah.
April in 2024, and they said only 2% were scientifically accurate when it comes to health and well-being. And I'm curious, not that we can kind of debunk or demystify all of the misinformation, but do you have any strategies or tools if somebody is like hearing information or looking for information that will kind of almost like guardrails Sid for them to make sure that they can kind of maybe question that information in a particular way? What type of, again, skills or tools or strategies do you encourage people to use when they're hearing all of these pieces of information about well-being?
I think that's a great question, and we have to come back to what we also feel to be true for us, because we can't believe everything that we hear. And everyone has opinions, and everyone has their own experience, but not everything is true for each individual. So I would say using your discernment, and really just allowing yourself to do your research, and talk to the ones that you know, like, and trust, like your healthcare providers, the people that work in the industry, the ones that are facilitating or working on bodies, or whatever that is in the area that you are wanting to learn more about. Collect your data, like, have the conversations, and then allow yourself to move forward with what feels best, and what is going to be most effective or efficient, whether that be breath work, weight training, relationship repair, like all of these different things. You've got to go to the experts and the people that work in the industry. And I do that in my life as well too. Like, I'll listen and I'll really, lead in the, area I'm curious about or I want to know more about with the ones that are doing that work day in and day out.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is like having that like almost like that brain trust, right? Like knowing where like the information is coming from, not just
Yeah.
taking it at kind of like surface value, but like kind of see where we can go to the source, have that trusted group of people that we listen to. Because at the end of the day, like the health industry is $1 trillion industry for a reason, right? Like it feels like everyone are, for most part, are like selling things. So a lot of that information is skewed, I think, to really kind of set them up for success. And so, yeah, that idea of discernment, trusting the people that you can go to, I really love that counsel that you're offering, which is great. Are there any like current ones that like when you jump on social media or you see that like gets you like in a wee bit of a tizzy where you're just like, oh, if I could only correct this one, this is the one that I want to correct, so people stop doing this or start doing this.
I mean, I think for me with social media is, you know, I really look to the people that I do know, like, and trust.
Yes.
And then I think it's also just really being discerning with this AI as well too, because I feel like that can kind of steer us in the wrong direction. Um, for me, I really just try to keep my community, and guide them in the best direction and not be too consumed with everything that's out on social media because I can't fix everyone's problems.
Yeah, totally so true. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always, I love the like the hype cycles that you see that as they kind of ripple through where, a claim gets made and then like a week later I'm at an event and somebody's like, "Hey Robin, can I ask you about this?" And then all of a sudden you start noticing it's like, "Okay, so this is what we're talking about right now." And the one that just recently crossed my plate that I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" was, this woman was asking me about, do you buy hydrogen water? And like, do you suggest we drink hydrogen water? And I had this pause where I'm like, I'm sorry, can you tell me a little bit more? Like what's hydrogen water? And she's like, oh, we infuse hydrogen in it because it's better for our bodies. I'm like, what do you think's in water to begin with? Right. Like I had this moment where I'm like, okay, but again, I just appreciate that people get kind of caught up in some of those hype cycles, Sid, because the reality is like people don't feel well and they are looking for relief anywhere, right? So if at the right time, something comes across my feed and it's like, hey, if you drink this special hydrogen water, and just for everybody listening, water has to have hydrogen in it to be water. So you don't need anything added to it. But again, just that appreciation that people are so tired, they're exhausted, they just want to feel better. And so, yeah, if somebody shows them this thing that's going to make a difference, I understand why people lean into it. But again, what I'm also hearing you're saying is just like it doesn't have to be that complicated, right? Like there's other things that we can do that are within our own bodies, that can maybe help bring us some of that relief.
Absolutely. And I I think that's where we've kind of lost touch with our own connection to our own selves because we have social media and we're constantly scrolling and we're seeking or looking maybe for something outside of ourselves when we actually do have the tools within us. And a lot of that practice, especially in body work and breath work and fascia and the health industry, being a very, very big industry and so many people, which I think is really great to see, are becoming, more intentional with their movement and being active and practicing breath work, that it's great to see. But then I do feel like we can kind of lean a little bit too far on one end when I've just been always a believer about doing my best to, at times have as much balance as I can in most areas. And of course, we're never going to achieve complete harmony.
Yep.
Um, but I think really coming back to your knowing, not trying to find something outside of you, coming back into, okay, well, what does it feel like for me to actually pause, feel the floor, take a breath? How does my nervous system feel? How does my breath feel? When I step into a room, do I feel anxious? Do I feel calm? When I leave this conversation, do I feel expansive or did I feel really contractive? And I think it's really when we look at the somatics, when we look at breath work, when we look at fascia, our bodies and our nervous system are constantly like filtering out and taking in information and processing information, that I think we forget how smart our beings and our bodies actually are.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful said. Okay, I'm just imagining that person who's, like, out and about, maybe they're going on a little walk listening to this podcast, Sid, or maybe they're, driving to kids to school or wherever they are commuting, and they're probably thinking, and maybe it's myself, but thinking like, "Okay, she said fascia a lot, and I know what breath is, and I know what movement is, but, like, tell us about how fascia fits into that conversation," because we might recall that from gym class, but some of us might need a wee bit of a refresher.
Yeah, and like fascia is so cool, and I love fascia. And there's been so much more research over the last decade, 20 years, with fascia, and so it is this interconnective tissue.
Okay.
And so when you look at the body, you've got your muscles, your ligaments, your tendons, your bones. Fascia is almost, if you could imagine it as this encasing, it encompasses everything. And this is what really allows us to be connected from head to toe, like hand to leg, different fascial lines that connect right shoulder to left hip or vice versa. Fascia is a really beautiful system that we sometimes bypass, where
Right.
fascia is really smart. And it's the fascia that actually allows us to move. So when we're looking at movement, when we're looking at training different planes of movement, when we're looking at our nervous system, our breath, fascia is always involved. And when we kind of dive a little bit deeper into building resilience of the body, building emotional resilience, fascia is also a really big piece to this. That for us to sit in the seat of how we feel, our fascia is responding. So maybe that's like, I've got chronic pain. Well, chronic, we don't really want chronic pain, in my opinion.
Yes.
Chronic is something that we're missing, and something's being overlooked, whether that be from the realms of physical, posture, emotional, um, hydration, all of these things. Because the way that fascia moves is we want to have, slide and glide through the fascial tissue, and we want it to be hydrated. Because when we feel really stuck in poor postures, or we only are, sitting down at a desk all day, our fascia doesn't have that fluidity. And as we move through life or we go out on a walk, like we want there to be movement and fluidity through our fascia, because that's also going to correlate, from what I've learned in my practice as well too, to the emotional side of things. If our body is in a posture that is compressive, and almost in a more depressive state, how do we think that it's going to affect how we think, feel,
Yeah.
and move?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And it's interesting. One of the kind of pieces of information that I love to share with people is the research that's coming out that talks about that if we look at human emotion, excluding grief, we don't ever include grief when we're talking about emotion because as I say, like grief rewrites us. It doesn't behave like the rest of the emotions. It's completely separate. But when we look at the kind of the traditional emotion, the research shows that, if you just sit with, let's say, anger, right? Like if somebody cheeses you, let's say they cut you off in traffic, or, your boss just came in and said, get really excited for the 14th strategic plan, like everybody get hyped up, right? Or whatever the thing is, or your flight's delayed, whatever it is, and you feel anger, the research shows that if we sit with it and just let ourselves experience that emotion, process it and digest it in real time, it will last for about 90 seconds. Like after about 90 seconds, the body has this beautiful way of processing. If we don't process it, if we just jump to the next thing or we don't kind of hold space for it, the research shows that there's some people believing it lasts in our body for up to 7 years. And why I share this is the researchers that are studying this are saying is that 7 years, it's related to the fascia. That they're saying that is the place because it's this like almost this like energy, although we know it's actually a thing, but it seems to though that is what is holding it and that's causing this constriction and things don't move as freely or as you said so beautifully through the body, which I just think is fascinating that we're seeing that these are not separate systems. It's not like brain is over here with these pesky emotions, and then we have these bones and all the other things. It's like, no, there's this beautiful interconnection in all of these things, which I think is just so remarkable that we're finally catching up to what to people probably thousands of years ago already knew.
Yeah, and with the research coming out more with just how even just like our pain receptors and the deeper receptors in the body through the nervous system that are interconnected with the fascia. I've worked with a number of patients and experienced um, those. I've experienced those experiences of people moving through emotion from tissue. And can we really explain it? Not necessarily at times, but is there research that can help us see that our bodies do keep the score
Yeah.
and our bodies do hold? And so I feel like, as we pivot in life, and we move through different experiences and we're building that resiliency through the body, it's it's finding that safety and trust within self that we don't have to suppress and hold,
Yeah.
and that you can move emotions through the body. You can feel and sit with them, because that's where we will start to see through the tissue, which is what I work with hands on every day, um, where that then can become chronic. It then can result in that, again, the idea of the dis-ease in the body, and things that really we don't really have answers to. But then I would also play devil's advocate to say, what are you not choosing to look at? Or what is it that you haven't allowed yourself to sit with to really come back into the truth of it and the essentials? Are you hydrated? Are you moving your body? Like, are you speaking kindly to yourself? Because so many of these different facets play such a crucial role on just our health and how we live
Yeah.
and how we
Absolutely.
experience.
Yeah, how we experienced our days, right? And the quality of our days are made up by all of these habits. It's made up with our experiences. And, one of the on routes that we use when I'm working with somebody who's navigated a lot, let's say they are emotionally that they've had to navigate a lot of change, a lot of uncertainty, grief, whatever it might be, sometimes starting in what we would call more of a traditional, like psychological place, whether it be therapy or whatever, for some people that's like too much, or they've done it so much that it's like autopilot. And one of the things that I often encourage them to think about is, let's try and get out of our head and let's try and get into our body. And we're not going to try and solve and problem solve and outthink all of this trauma. Can we start the process of actually just, let's focus on our bodies right now, whether that be just through, like, instead, and again, it's not that we're trying to make it smaller, we're not trying to make it bigger, we're just actually being kind to our body. Because again, to echo what you're saying about that safety piece, I think when the body starts to feel safe, when it feels nourished, when it feels looked after, we're going to feel better resourced to be able to handle some of these complexities and some of these more difficult pieces. And so I usually encourage people, if they've kind of been trying things and they're not getting a lot of success, that, let's try and get out of our head, let's get into our body. And it could be something as simple as take your worries for a walk, right? If I notice I'm sitting in one place worrying, my go-to is like, I can still worry, I don't have to stop worrying, but I'm going to take it for a walk, because if not, I'm literally marinating in my misery and I know it's not going to get better, right? I've never sat still to a point where the anxiety just went away. The anxiety goes away when I action it. So I take my worries for a walk, right? Just those little things to get us into our body and realize that the little things actually aren't that little. The little things will actually start to build momentum.
Yeah, and you know when you talk about moving from the mind and getting out of the head and coming back into the body, that's where, when we can look at a tool such as like breath work and the somatics of that, as you would move through a breath practice, whether that be like a box breath, like an inhale for 4 with a pause count for 4 and an exhale for 4, or we get into something like a physiological sigh with a double inhale and a full exhale, or even more of a hyperventilative, something that's going to maybe give our bodies an opportunity to move into a little bit more sympathetic charge. It gives us an opportunity to let the body and the nervous system begin to speak. And I feel like it's a really nice compliment um, when it comes to therapy, and when we kind of maybe feel like there's we've almost like hit a wall in a sense where it's like, how can I move more of this through my system? Breath work almost takes the thinking
Yeah.
work out of therapy, and it's the therapy of the body. And it allows our bodies, whether that be through a temperature change, through shaking, through being vocal and expressing what at a time maybe didn't have the safety or the container um, to be expressed, that we can again go back to this repatterning um, of being in a container with a practitioner or facilitator that you feel safe with and know, like, and trust, that can hold that container and that space to move through and feel. Just like, you sit with an emotion and it really doesn't last that long, but we have to feel our way through these things. We
Yeah.
can't think our way out of a situation sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And I know from my own lived experience that sometimes like that those things in parallel, like being able to, have the support we need, whether it be, as you said, like therapeutic support we need, but also thinking of our bodies as it needing a guide as well, or as somebody to help carry that work and do that work with them. So I absolutely love that. Sid, I can talk to you for days, like literally
I
I can
know.
talk to you for days. So again, there's so many other things that I want to ask you, but I'm very mindful of your time. So if it's okay, I'm going to shift gears quite quickly over to the last question that got left. So we do a practice similar to how they do on a Diary of a CEO, or saying, hey, this is our next guest. Do you have a question? It just so happened, though, one of our mutual friends found out that I was going to be chatting with you today. So our near and dear Jill Carr jumped in and she's like, whoa, I have the next question. So are you open to taking a question from our mutual friend, Jillian Carr, who says hello?
Absolutely, I will take a question from Jillian Carr.
Okay, so here's the question. Okay, she actually, I love this. I'm like, can you send me one? She sent me three. So because when she's like, will you ask Sid? I said, I will. I'm sure she'll be up for it. So this is the one we're gonna pull. What's one small thing that someone did for you that you've never forgotten?
Ooh, that is a really good question.
Good question, Jill. She has a bunch of them, but that was like my favorite. What's one small thing someone's done for you that you haven't forgotten?
Oh, I mean, being able to just sit with me, being able to just sit with me in my most vulnerable space and state, is to just have, yeah. And my God bless my friend who I'm speaking of right now, but to just be there and just hold the space and sit with me.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful.
And that's one thing I won't ever forget. And I think that again is just, that's real human connection, and that's love. And um, sometimes we don't need anybody to fix a problem, or we don't need anybody to offer a solution. Um, but it's being able to hold your people when they need to be held.
Oh, Sid, that's beautiful. Oh my goodness. Again, well, I hope we can do it part 2 because again, I have so many questions
Absolutely.
I'd love to ask you. Thank you so much for the gift of your time, your expertise, and you just inspire and you are just bright light everywhere you go. So thank you for the beautiful work that you do. And I do encourage people to really like take an interest in what Sid's doing and check her out. We'll make sure all this information is in the show notes. And yeah, so thank you for spending time with us. I look forward to welcoming you back again soon.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Robin. Such a pleasure.
Thank you for spending time with this podcast episode today. I hope you found something helpful in Resiliency Redefined. Please feel free to share it with somebody who you might think could benefit. Maybe there was something useful, something in particular that you think you could pay forward. Also, if you have a moment, please feel free to rate and review this podcast wherever you like to listen to your podcast. It means the world to me. And again, thanks for your time. Thank you for your interest. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.